Your phone buzzes at 11:47 p.m. and it's a screenshot of two listings side by side. One is a shiny apartment with a gym, a rooftop, and rent that makes your stomach tighten. The other is smaller, farther, and weirdly, it lets you breathe. By the end of this, you'll know how to spot the 20K choice hiding inside your housing decision and exactly what to do tonight so the next 10 years don't get quietly rented out. Right now, you probably believe the same thing everybody believes. Housing is just expensive. You don't choose, you survive. You take what's available, what looks safe, what feels adult, and you tell yourself you'll adjust. And honestly, that belief makes sense, because the landlord doesn't care about your budget spreadsheet. Your parents don't care about interest rates. They care about a good area. Your friends don't care about your emergency fund. They care about where the hangout spot is. So you do what humans do under pressure. You grab the option that reduces stress today. You pick the place that feels like you're moving forward. You pick the place that wins the group chat. But the hidden mechanism isn't the rent amount. It's the gap between what you pay and what that payment steals from your future choices. Housing isn't a monthly bill. Housing is a steering wheel. And every time you turn it a little, your entire decade turns with it. Here's the villain in this story: the monthly payment illusion. It whispers it's only a little more. It turns big decisions into small-sounding numbers. It makes you feel responsible while it slowly takes your options hostage. You don't feel the decade hit you on day one. You feel it in tiny moments, like when your boss offers a project in another city and you say, "I can't move right now." Like when your friend starts a side hustle and you say, "Maybe later." Like when you check your bank app and the balance looks okay, but you still feel trapped. That's not you being dramatic. That's you being outvoted by your rent. Let me show you what 20K actually means in real life. Meet you, not metaphorical you, actual you, with your actual salary, your actual bills, and your real habit of treating food delivery like a personality trait. Say you earn 220,000 PKR a month. After tax and deductions, maybe 190,000 lands in your account. You're proud of that. You should be. But money doesn't care about pride, it cares about math. Option A, you choose the nicer place. Rent, 85,000. Utilities, internet maintenance, 15,000. Commute and random area costs because the grocery store's fancy, 10,000. Total, 110,000. Option B, you choose the simpler place. Rent, 65,000. Utilities, internet, maintenance, 12,000. Commute and area costs, 8,000. Total, 85,000. The difference is 25,000 PKR per month. That doesn't sound like a decade. It sounds like one less brunch. It sounds like manageable. That's the illusion doing push-ups in your brain. Now the math reveal, but keep it simple. 25,000 per month times 12 months is 300,000 per year. Over 5 years, that's 1.5 million. Over 10 years, 3 million PKR. And that's before the second punch, rent increases. If rents rise even 8% a year, the gap doesn't stay 25,000. It grows. Year 1, you're paying 25K more. Year 5, you might be paying 35K more. Year 10, you're paying, why is my chest tight, more. So that 3 million becomes 4 million-ish without you doing anything wrong. You didn't buy a sports car, you just signed a lease. And here's the part people miss. That extra money doesn't just vanish. It displaces things. It displaces your savings. It displaces investing. It displaces your ability to quit a job that's draining you. It displaces your margin. Margin is the real flex. Not the rooftop, not the lobby that smells like a hotel. Margin. Because when life punches you, you don't block with vibes. You block with cash. Now zoom out. You're not just choosing between two apartments. You're choosing between two versions of your nervous system. One version wakes up calm because there's buffer. The other wakes up alert because one unexpected expense can start a chain reaction. And yes, you'll still post photos in both places. But one version of you posts photos while quietly sweating. Quick pattern interrupt. That nicer place? Sometimes it's the cheap option. Yeah, I said it. Because if the cheaper place forces you into a brutal commute that burns your time, your health, and your ability to earn more, then you're paying with something more valuable than money. So the goal isn't always cheaper. The goal is cheaper without breaking your life. So how do you actually spot the 20K decision? You measure the gap in 3 currencies: money, time, and stress. If you ignore time and stress, you'll do smart math and still end up broke in spirit. Let's do a relatable micro story with numbers. You pick the nicer place because you want a fresh start. You tell yourself you'll cut spending elsewhere. You even say it out loud, I'll cook more. 3 months in, your work gets hectic. Cooking becomes a myth, so you start ordering dinner 3 times a week. That's 200 PKR extra each time compared to cooking. 3 times a week is about 14 times a month. That's 16,800 PKR. Add weekend just 1 coffee outings because your area is full of cute cafes, and suddenly your lifestyle costs rise another 8,000. Now your 25K gap is not 25K, it's 50K. And you didn't notice because none of it was one dramatic purchase. It was death by 1,000 it's fine moments. This is psychology, not weakness. Your brain hates losing comfort once it gets it. So you upgrade the apartment and your brain goes, okay, new normal. Then it protects that new normal like a guard dog. You will spend money to avoid feeling like you're going backward, even if backward is actually forward. That's lifestyle creep. It's not a monster with teeth, it's a quiet friend who keeps suggesting, since you're already paying this much, you might as well get the nicer furniture. Might as well keep the car, might as well subscribe, might as well, and then suddenly, you're might as welling your way into a decade of low options. Another micro payoff. Housing affects your income even if your salary stays the same, because it decides your energy. And your energy decides your output. And your output decides your promotions, your side gigs, your courage to negotiate. When you're financially squeezed, you accept nonsense. You become polite at the wrong moments. You say yes to work you hate because your rent has a countdown timer. You might be thinking, okay, but I deserve a decent place, I'm tired. Yes, you do deserve decency. This isn't about punishment, this is about control. Decency is non-negotiable, but luxury you can't afford is not self-care. It's self-sabotage wearing good lighting. Objection 1, but moving to a cheaper place is unsafe or too far. Fair. If the cheaper option raises real safety risks, you're not saving money, you're buying stress. Your goal is to lower cost without raising danger. So the move isn't pick the cheapest, it's pick the safest affordable zone. Sometimes that means smaller space, not worse area. Sometimes it means a roommate. Sometimes it means a building without the fancy extras that you never use anyway. The gym downstairs is nice, but your knees have not met that treadmill in 6 months. Objection 2, but my family will judge me. Also fair. South Asian families have a black belt in commentary. But here's the trade. Would you rather manage their opinions or manage debt? Because debt doesn't just talk, it charges interest. And the funniest part? People who judge your apartment won't pay your bills. They'll just visit, eat your snacks, and leave. Objection 3. Rent is throwing money away, so I should buy whatever I can. Buying can be great, but buying the wrong house is like marrying someone because the wedding hall looked nice. The payment might be similar, but ownership has extra costs. Repairs, taxes, fees, random, why is the wall wet, surprises. If you buy at the edge of your budget, you're not building wealth. You're building anxiety. You want a home that doesn't need you to be perfect every month. Now, the twist that makes this a decade decision. The 20K isn't just what you overpay. It's what you lose by not investing the gap. And yes, investing sounds like a thing rich people do while sipping something green. But investing is just putting money where time can multiply it. Even simple options like mutual funds or index funds exist for regular people. Think of it like planting seeds instead of eating the seed packet because you were hungry today. Let's keep the math gentle. If you saved that $25,000 a month and invested it with an average return of 10% a year, over 10 years you don't end up with $3 million. You end up with more because growth stacks on growth. Roughly, you could be in the range of 5 to 6 million PKR, not magic, just time doing its job. And if your gap is 50K because lifestyle creep joined the party, now you're talking 10 to 12 million. That's not a nice to have. That's a down payment. That's a business cushion. That's the ability to walk away from a toxic workplace without begging your future self for forgiveness. Pause. Read that again in your head. Your apartment choice can buy you freedom. Now, how do you avoid getting tricked by the monthly payment illusion? You use one rule that's simple enough to remember in a panic. The two-number test. Number 1, your all-in housing cost. Not just rent. Rent plus utilities plus commute plus maintenance plus the extra spending your area triggers. Be honest. If living in that area means you will order more food and spend more to keep up, count it. Your bank statement already knows the truth. You're just catching up. Number 2, your monthly freedom number. That's how much you want left after essentials to build your future. Savings, investing, emergency fund, upskilling, whatever moves your life forward. If your housing choice crushes that freedom number, it's too expensive for you right now, even if you can technically pay it. And before you say, "But I can handle it," check your inner monologue. I'll just be disciplined. I'll stop spending. I'll figure it out. These are not plans. These are prayers. Here's another pattern interrupt. Discipline is a candle. Systems are a generator. Stop building a decade on candles. Okay, tonight's plan, 2 versions depending on where you are. If you're broke or overwhelmed, you do the survival reset. Open your bank app. Look at last month's spending, not your ideal budget, your actual life. Circle your housing-related total. Rent, bills, commute, deliveries, area spending. Write it down. Now pick a target. Reduce that number by 10% within 60 days. Not 50%. Not heroic. 10. How? One of these moves, negotiate rent at renewal. Yes, people do it. Ask respectfully, mention you pay on time. Cut one convenience that's attached to your location, like daily coffee or constant delivery. Or, if the gap is brutal, start scouting a smaller place in the same safe zone. Smaller isn't shameful. Smaller is strategy. If you can't move now, get a roommate or split costs where possible. The goal is buffer. Even 15,000 PKR a month saved becomes 180,000 a year. That's emergency proofing. That's your future buying you a helmet. If you're stable and ready to optimize, you do the freedom upgrade. Run the 2-number test for your next move. Then set an automatic transfer on payday for the gap you want to protect. The same day your salary lands, your freedom money leaves. Because if it stays, it gets eaten. Now invest it or park it in a high-yield savings option available to you, and set a rent raise firewall rule. Every time rent increases, you don't absorb it by shrinking your savings. You renegotiate, you downsize, or you increase income. But you don't quietly sacrifice your future month after month. That's how decades get stolen. And yes, increasing income matters. But it's harder to grow income when you're suffocating. Lowering fixed costs is like taking your foot off your own throat. Once you breathe, you can actually do the work that raises your earning power. Now, one more micro payoff. Your housing choice also decides your social circle, not directly, but through exposure. If your place forces you into constant expensive outings because that's what people do here, you'll spend more to belong. If your place gives you calm, you'll be more selective. You'll stop buying friendships in installments. You'll build relationships that don't require a receipt. So what's the memorable metaphor for this? Your housing choice is like choosing shoes for a 10-year walk. The expensive shoes might look amazing in the mirror, but if they're half a size too tight, every step hurts, and you'll quit the walk early. The right shoes aren't the cheapest. They're the ones that let you keep walking without bleeding money and confidence. And if you're hearing this and feeling guilt, breathe. You're not stupid. You're not lazy. You were sold a story that adulthood means upgrading your address every time your income twitches. A story that comfort today is worth any price tomorrow. That story benefits landlords, developers, and every ad that wants you to believe your worth is a floor plan. You can be ambitious and still be strategic. You can live decently and still protect your future. You can want nice things and still refuse to finance them with your freedom. And before you even sign anything, there's the stealth cost nobody puts in the listing photo. The starting kit, security deposit, broker fee, moving van, a curtain rod you didn't know existed, a gas cylinder deposit, a new router because the old one doesn't support the building. It's like the apartment charges an entrance fee, then acts shocked when you remind it you're not a bank. Let's do a quick scene. You move into option A, you're excited, fresh paint, fancy lights. Day 2, you realize the place is echoey. You can hear your own thoughts. Terrible. So you buy a rug, 18,000. Then you buy a small dining table because eating on the bed feels like a crime now, 35,000. Then you buy curtains because your neighbor's building is basically staring into your soul, 12,000. Then your mom visits and says, "Beta, where will guests sit?" And suddenly you're pricing a sofa like it's an exam. You didn't just choose rent, you chose a whole lifestyle package. And the monthly payment illusion is clapping from the corner like, "See? Adulting." Meanwhile, option B is not glamorous, but it's forgiving. Your furniture can be simple. Your decor can be functional without feeling like a failure. You can laugh at yourself and move on. Forgiving is underrated. Another tiny twist. The more expensive place often increases your fixed commitments. Parking fee, generator fee, maintenance that might go up next quarter. Suddenly your rent isn't the big number anymore. It's the gateway drug. Now, about buying versus renting, because someone always brings it up like a magic spell. Bro, just buy. Rent is dead money. Okay, but buying has its own illusions. The EMI illusion is the monthly payment illusion's cousin who wears a suit. Say you find a small place to buy, price, 12 million PKR, you put 20% down, 2.4 million, loan 9.6 million. At around 18% interest, your EMI might land near 150,000 a month, depending on term. That's not a payment, that's a lifestyle. And interest is not shy. In the early years, most of your EMI is interest, not ownership. It feels like progress while you're mostly paying the bank for the privilege of borrowing. Here's the simple way to see it without getting a headache. If your EMI is 150K and your rent alternative is 80K, the gap is 70K monthly. If you don't have a huge down payment, buying may lock you into the same trap, low margin. And low margin is what makes people panic sell, miss payments, borrow from friends, and then pretend it was bad luck. Not bad luck, bad buffer, but I'm not anti-buying. I'm anti-buying when you're barely breathing. A good purchase should make your life calmer. If it makes you feel like you're walking on a glass floor, it's not wealth. It's pressure. Now let's bring it back to behavior, because numbers don't matter if your brain keeps sabotaging you. Humans love status certainty. When you move into a nicer place, your brain gets a dopamine badge. I'm doing well. And you start protecting that badge. You won't invite friends to a smaller place because you fear they'll think you're struggling. So you stay in the expensive place longer than you should. Not because it's logical, but because it's emotional. You're not paying rent anymore. You're paying for identity. You've had this thought, right? If I move somewhere cheaper, it'll feel like I'm going backwards. And then this one. But if I stay, at least nobody can say anything. And then the quiet one at 2 a.m. Why am I working so hard and still feeling stuck? That's not weakness. That's the cost of trying to impress people who aren't even watching. Micro payoff number 3. Housing costs have a momentum problem. Once you choose a place, moving becomes painful. You get used to the route, the shopkeeper, the chai spot, the security guard who knows your face. So even if the rent becomes uncomfortable, you tolerate it. That's called friction. And friction keeps you trapped in bad deals because leaving is annoying. Your future gets priced by your present laziness. Harsh, but accurate. So build moving power before you need it. Keep your stuff minimal. Don't buy heavy furniture just because the living room looks empty. Now, a quick check you can do when you're touring a place. Stand in the living room and ask yourself one brutal question. If my income dropped by 20% for 3 months, would this place ruin me? If the answer is yes, the place is not nice. It's fragile. And fragile is expensive. And one more thing, because someone needs to say it. Your home should support your life, not replace it. If your home is so expensive that you don't go out, don't travel, don't learn, don't invest, don't rest, congrats, you bought a beautiful cage. So next time you're staring at 2 listings at midnight, don't ask, can I afford this rent? Ask, what decade does this rent buy me? Does it buy you a decade of calm, growth, and options? Or does it buy you a decade of tightening, coping, and pretending you're fine? Because 10 years from now, you won't remember the lobby. You'll remember whether you had choices, whether you could say no, whether you could take a risk, whether you could breathe. You're not failing at money. You've just been using a housing rulebook written by people who profit when you feel trapped. Pick the shoes that fit. Protect your freedom number. and let the monthly payment illusion keep whispering by itself in an empty, overpriced apartment.